Welcome to the Denver Gazette Sports Podcast. I am your host, Chris Schmedeke, and today we have some instant analysis of the big news in college football this morning, which was Colorado State making the move to the Pac-2, Pac-12, six-pack. I don't know what we're going to call it. So I'm joined by Tyler King. Tyler, how are you? And college football, never quiet, never boring.
No, that's for sure. I mean, this everybody thought the Pac-12 was dead over a year ago, last summer when all the schools left for the Big Ten and the Big 12 respectively, the ACC as well. Can't forget Cal and Stanford.
Yeah.
But now the conference is trying to make a comeback. Oregon State, Washington State never relinquished control of the conference, and they've been working hard to get to bring the conference back essentially, and they've got the start of that going now with four schools, including obviously Colorado State, going to the conference in 2026. It's an interesting mix of teams. They have to get to 8 to become an FBS conference. So obviously they are not done. We'll see what the next steps are for the conference. That's something we'll have. I mean, we're going to have so much coverage of this in the Denver Gazette tomorrow. Even, before we get to all the Rocky Mountain Showdown stuff on Saturday. I mean, this is going to be a big weekend for Colorado State. I can't imagine a bigger string of days considering, the announcement today on a Thursday. And then Saturday, they've got a CBS prime time game for the Rocky Mountain Showdown for the first time in Kansas Stadium.
Yes.
It's a huge weekend for Collins. And they seem to be on the right track as an athletic department as a whole.
So it's CSU, it's Boise State, it's Fresno State, and San Diego State that are going as of now. That puts the conference at 6 teams. Like you said, it has to be 8 to be considered a conference. So I guess let's just start with CSU. Like you've kind of already mentioned how big of a deal this is, but CSU this has been in the works for a while. These things don't happen overnight, but how big of a deal is this for CSU? It's huge.
Yeah, I think depending on what's next will determine just how big it is. Like, I think obviously they wouldn't have made this move if they didn't think it was the smart decision financially. Like, obviously, I'm sure they have the workings of some kind of media rights deal for the new look conference starting in 2026. I think that the Turner thing is fascinating, just with TNT kind of being available now for anything really. If they want to kind of make their imprint in college football and have it be like the late night West Coast games and like make the Pac-12 after dark like a real thing that's not just like an internet meme, like TNT just being the home of that would be cool. And maybe they see an opportunity to kind of seize that, and especially if they're able to add some more bigger brands and things like that. We'll see exactly who they go after. I think we can discuss some of the names, but I think it all depends for CSU. It's obviously going to be, I think, a good move. Like the Mountain West just was never going to have enough pull, I think, to get the media rights money that CSU is after in terms of expanding as a program. Because I do think one of the things that I think probably attracted CSU, the Pac-12 to CSU, was the facilities, the market obviously as well, but I mean, CSU has some really good facilities for a current group of 5 school, whether it's Moby, that's just an awesome environment for basketball, volleyball, everything that's in there. Canvas is a beautiful stadium, and everybody around the country will get to see that this weekend. The football facilities as a whole and the money, like it should be a top tier group of 5 program. So this kind of makes sense. I know people were talking kind of about maybe being a little bit surprised that it was CSU and not UNLV. But I think UNLV will likely end up in this new look conference anyway, just for the Las Vegas market. But I do think CSU was really attractive to the Pac-12 for all those reasons, and I think it's just going to be a mutually beneficial move here.
Well, and it's interesting you mentioned, because this is not just football related, and it is, but it's not. And the Rams have good programs in basketball, men and women. The women's team has had definitely some, like you said, volleyball. Like this is a multi-sport move for them, and it's going to help in recruiting as well, probably.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this just elevates the brand as a whole for CSU. I think everybody was kind of in college athletics was looking for who was going to seize the West Coast, because I mean, there just really isn't a West Coast conference right now in terms of college football, because all the California schools are in the ACC or the Big Ten. Oregon, Washington, they're in the Big Ten. I mean, it just didn't feel like there was a real West Coast conference, and this kind of strengthens that. And obviously, the Pac-12 has been Oregon State and Washington State have been trying to make that a thing again, and weren't trying to let it just die. So, kudos to Oregon State and Washington State for not giving up hope that they could bring back the Pac-12 and not just joining the Mountain West. Like, they could have easily done that. They had the agreement this year where Oregon State and Washington State are playing almost essentially all Mountain West schools on their football schedules. That isn't continuing next year because there was a kind of a disagreement with the fees and everything. So, it's a fascinating move, and it's obviously just the beginning for the new look Pac-12.
Well, I mean, this stuff is so unpredictable, but I feel the Pac-12 is trying to get back to being a power conference. But
yeah,
what is that going to take? Like, is it going to? I mean, is the Vegas market a big market? What is that? I mean, is it getting Cal and Stanford back? Is it?
I think that's the answer, right?
Is that
there.
the answer? You think?
I think you're hoping that the ACC maybe has a little bit of instability. Clemson and Florida State have been eyeing other conferences for years at this point. We've had reports about FSU trying to get Saudi money to try to get out of the ACC contracts and everything like that. And I think that's been a thing in Big 12 circles for a little bit now, is trying to get one, if not both of those schools, because that would really help the Big 12 from a football perspective. So if there's any sort of instability with the ACC, I think Cal and Stanford would be looking to get out pretty quickly and come back to the Pac-12, because, I mean, it just makes sense for them geographically and academically and everything. I mean, I don't think they were too thrilled about joining the ACC. Like, I think that was just kind of like clinging to a life raft kind of thing. Like, and not wanting to go. Yeah, they didn't want to go down with the sinking ship, and that was the only option, was the ACC. But if the Pac-12 is actually a conference again and comes back, I think Cal and Stanford would be pretty eager to join. I wouldn't say that about the other schools that are in the Big Ten, just because the media rights money in the Big Ten is just way too good for USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington to come back anytime soon. Like, a lot would have to happen for that. But it's gonna be interesting. I do think UNLV is kind of a no-brainer at this point. They're probably the first school left out of this, and we'll see where they go from there. I think New Mexico could make some sense too, especially from a basketball perspective. And if we're talking basketball, like, why not just go after Gonzaga and St. Mary's?
Right.
Like, try to make the basketball conference at least something formidable as well, because no one's getting anywhere near the Big 12 in basketball with the current, how it's currently set up. But I think the Pac-12 could seize, if they get two really good programs like Gonzaga and St. Mary's, two perennial NCAA tournament contenders, that really strengthens the basketball side of things as well. Obviously, that's not first priority, but for me as a basketball fan, I think that would be pretty fascinating. So, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts that will still continue. So, this will continue to be a story probably for a year or so, I feel like, because this is not until 2026. So I think over the next year is when all this will take place. I'm sure they would like to get it done quickly, but we'll see what happens, because, like I said, they need a big brand to be considered more than, like, to be reconsidered as a group or a Power 5 conference again. Because right now they're not. Even if they get to 8 with UNLV and New Mexico, they're just the best group of 6, team at this point. Like, they're still not on the level of an ACC even. Like they would need to get Cal and Stanford back, and then maybe probably add some more. Like, I think Tulane, Memphis, those two teams in the American would be really fascinating, just in terms of where they've gone football wise. Geographically, it might seem a little bit weird, but, like I said, Cal and Stanford are right now playing the ACC. So throw geography out the window right now. I mean, if they are able to add Tulane and Memphis, and then maybe get Cal and Stanford back, then you're looking at a real conference again. And I think that's where things get really interesting.
And then, I mean, what would we have? 5? Well, if the ACC blows up, you'd have the SEC, Big 12, Big 10, Pac, whatever. And then that's it?
Yeah, and then the rest of the conferences, yeah. And then,
I mean, as the power ones. I mean, and you can't even throw the Pac one in there yet because they don't have the firepower. But, the UNLV thing is always, like, I thought they would be on that list this morning. I thought that would make sense. But do teams care about that Vegas market, or do conferences care about that Vegas market that much?
I think they do. I mean, just with the fact that, look at the Big 12, decided to have its conference football media days in Las Vegas this summer. The Big 12 considers Vegas a priority market for them, and they don't even have a school there right now. That's west of where any of the Big 12 schools are. I mean, maybe not technically. I'm trying to think of geography, whatever.
Yeah, we don't need to be drawing any maps or anything.
With the Arizona schools, I'm like, is that west?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. But regardless, I mean, the Big 12 obviously considers Vegas a priority. The Mountain West has been in Vegas for years with the basketball tournaments, the conference tournaments, as well as football media days. So I think Vegas is a huge priority for these conferences that consider themselves to be on the western side of the United States. So I think UNLV should be a no-brainer. It feels like maybe, I don't know, maybe it's Nevada that comes with just because of that, or maybe I would consider New Mexico just because of the basketball. I know Nevada is also a pretty strong basketball program historically, but we'll see. Well, I think UNLV is a no-brainer, and then we'll see who comes after that. Like this could get quickly to back to 12 teams.
It could,
if you get UNLV and one of Nevada or New Mexico, that's 8. Tulane, Memphis, like I said, which could be real possibilities, to 10. Cal, Stanford, you're back at 12. And then there it is, and then that's the real conference. So this could all happen quickly. It takes some time. We'll see. But CSU's along for the ride for wherever this goes. And I think it can only go up from here.
So let's talk about the Mountain West, because we do still have 2 teams that we consider local in that conference, in Wyoming and Air Force. So what about the Mountain West as a whole? Like, do they try to add, or is everybody going to jump ship? Like, what is their process?
I think the Mountain West will try to stay firm and try to hold. Maybe they poach some teams from the FCS. I mean, that could be fascinating. There's some really, really good, historically great programs in the area that you could easily add to the Mountain West if they had an interest. It's obviously they have to have an interest in moving up to the FBS level. There's a lot that comes with that. But Montana State, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Sacramento State, all Eastern Washington, all these really good programs that are in the Big Sky could be intriguing for the Mountain West if they want to solidify themselves as like a really good football conference.
Yeah. So what about Air Force in Wyoming? What do they just kind of probably stand pat? I mean, I'm surprised, adding Air Force in the Pac-12 would not have been a bad idea, I don't think.
Yeah, it's just tough to do. I think with all of the stuff that goes along with Air Force, like it's just hard for them to get transfers in this. Like they're just not fit for this day and age of college athletics, which is a bummer. But it's just kind of the reality of their situation. Something they did, it's just kind of the reality of the situation. I think Wyoming probably feels a little left out. But I think CSU said in its statement, and I have an interview with CSU athletic director John Weber and president Amy Parsons this afternoon, and I'm going to try to get an answer on that with the border war. They seemed in the press release eager to keep that going. They mentioned historic rivalries. They want to keep that going in the non-conference. I think that will be a priority for CSU to make the border war an annual non-conference game if Wyoming, because I just don't see Wyoming being attractive enough for the Pac-12 to make the move. So making that an annual non-conference game, I think is going to be a priority for CSU to get that done. We'll see what Wyoming feels about that. I mean, they might just say, go screw yourselves because they left. But, we'll see what happens. I think that would be a real shame to lose that game. But I think, from the CSU side, at least, they're going to be eager to keep that going.
Yeah. And how do you think CU kind of stacks up with some of those teams? I mean, we know how they play against the Mountain West teams. Where do they kind of sit with Oregon State and Washington State? Like, are they right on that same level, kind of?
I would
really good last year.
Yeah, I mean, as football programs, Oregon State and Washington State have been pretty good for the last 10 years or so. I mean, they got stomped by both those teams last year. CU's been a step behind football wise. CU's a bigger brand, I feel like, but Oregon State and Washington State across the board have been really good, in terms of athletic competition. So, good academic schools as well that I think CSU is eager to partner with. So, I think it's a good mix of teams. San Diego State has been a team the Pac-12 was eyeing for years, like even before everyone left. Like they were always talking about adding San Diego State. Fresno State makes a ton of sense too. Boise State gives you a really, really strong football program. So it makes a ton of sense, this group. And then obviously they just got to add to it.
I feel like every big conference has their eye on Boise forever.
Yeah, it's I mean, the academics has probably been what's holding Boise back for years just because of it's just really not a great academic school. But I think it has always been an attractive program. Like they've been a really, really good football program for a long
Yeah.
time. As long as I can remember, in my lifetime. So I think it'll be, interesting to see how they stack up in terms of where they sit in the pecking order. Like I think Oregon State, Washington State are pretty clearly still the top teams in the conference. But like San Diego State, Boise State both have the ability to get higher. I feel like and be one of the top teams football wise in the conference. So that'll be fascinating as well. I mean, that's where CSU is hoping this benefits them is on the football side is like you said earlier with recruiting and things like that, just having more money to be a more just to be a better and more consistent football program, and they have a chance to really solidify that this weekend and continue to keep the eyes on them, as I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, we're going to switch to the Rocky Mountain Showdown now. CU goes up to play CSU in Fort Collins on Saturday. The Buffs are a 7.5-point favorite. I think that's ridiculous looking at these two teams. What are some things you're looking for in this game, Tyler?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the first quarter is going to be fascinating just in terms of the emotion in the game. I think this is the real game that CU has probably been looking for more so than Nebraska, just because of how last year went. Like they beat Nebraska pretty good. Like I didn't think they really cared too much, and I don't know. Maybe they felt going in they didn't have a shot because they didn't really play like it last weekend. But just with everything that went into last year's showdown, like the double overtimes, the Travis Hunter, getting injured, the Henry Blackburn, hit, all their stuff leading up to the game with the comments from both coaches. I think it'll be really interesting to see how the first quarter looks, just in terms of emotion. If there's some penalties and just some chippiness, that's one thing I'll be looking for. And then I just want to see who breaks first in terms of, CSU has been able to run the ball pretty well for the first two games, and CU I think has a much better run defense than last year. So if one of those, whoever is able to kind of win that battle early will set the tone, I think. I think you'll see CSU open up the passing game a little bit more than they did in the first two games. Those were just kind of unique scenarios against a way better opponent and a way worse opponent. So I think you'll kind of see CSU get back to that air raid offense a little bit. We'll just see how CU responds after last week's kind of beatdown. So and how seriously, because they've been they've really struggled in the first half of these first two games. So they've got to come out strong, because I think CSU is going to be eager to get a lead like they did last year and hold on to it this time. They don't want to. Yeah. They'll be disappointed if they have another 11-point lead and blow it again, because they felt like they should have won that game last year.
It seems like Torrey Horton is pretty up in the air for this game.
Yeah, he's probably not going to practice at all this week. And it's a groin strain. I'm sure he's going to want to play. We'll see just how limited he is. He's a pretty tough kid. He usually guts through whatever he needs to, especially in a big game like this. Like, he's going to want to play. I mean, he had 16 catches in the game a year ago. He was a pretty big part of the game. So he'll be eager to play. I would be surprised if he didn't at least try and give it a go. But, it's a groin strain. Kind of those leg muscle injuries can be pretty finicky. So we'll see exactly what he looks like, in warm-ups on Saturday night.
You were at Deion's presser this week. He seemed to get a little whatever again about some things. Is this just the norm with him now? I mean, I feel like he is mad about everything right now. I don't know. Maybe he's just figuring out this is harder than he thought. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't think it is. I don't think it has gone the way he expected it to. Yeah. I just think maybe he sees a team every day in practice that is not their best and is not up to the standard he knows it needs to be, because we know what this is all about, what it's all been about. It's been getting Shedeur drafted, Travis drafted, Shiloh drafted. That's what it's been about. It's been about the TV show, the documentary as well. Like, everything else kind of comes after that. Of course, they want to win games, but I don't think this has been as fun as maybe Deion expected from the football side, and he needs this win this weekend. Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah,
both coaches need the win. Both coaches need the win.
Who needs this win more?
That's something Vinny Benedetto and I talked about in our like little email exchange article we did earlier this week about the showdown. I still think it's Norvell just because, like Dion is job security. I don't think is ever going to be an issue in Boulder just because of the eyes and the money he brings in. Now maybe that would change if the football side goes really bad and it's like year 3 of really bad football and it's like, well, we don't really care that much about Dion anymore because he's just not winning at all, and the Suns are no longer there. So that could change in a year or so. But I still think for this year it's Norvell because, obviously this move kind of changes things as well. CSU is getting serious in terms of its conference, and they need to get serious as a football program. And if Jay Norvell is not the guy, I think that'll be proven this year. And winning this weekend would do a lot for that. Like I think you and I both think they have a chance to have a really good season. Like they're 1-1, like we both expected. They got killed by Texas. They beat Northern Colorado pretty handily. This is where it starts. Their season starts this weekend, and this could set the tone for a really big season. We'll see if they can get it done. Like you said, they're a 7.5-point underdog, which feels like a lot considering what CU looked like last week. So this is a big game for Jay Norvell, who is honestly coaching for his job this year. Like they need to make a bowl game and show some promise that this is going in the right direction because it's year 3. CSU is going to the Pac-12 in 2 years. Like it's time. It's time for CSU to take the next step. And like I said, this weekend would be the perfect start to that.
What? Oh, and also Shiloh Sanders not playing in this game. He's out for at least a month or so. I don't know how. Maybe he had surgery, right? He had surgery on that forearm.
Dion's in 2 to 3 weeks, but that felt crazy to me.
Insane.
I mean, like if it actually maybe it just wasn't a fractured forearm, maybe he just got bad information that like maybe it was just not as bad as they thought. But if it's a fractured forearm, that's a couple months. Like I don't know, like a couple of weeks seems pretty far fetched. Even if Dion claims Shiloh has the hand of God on him and heals pretty quickly, whatever.
Oh boy. So in this game, I mean, what's over under for Shedeur passing attempts? 50. I mean, now Dallin Hayden, like, I mean, they're not going to run. Right? Nothing's changing for them going into this game offensively, right?
No. Like, Dallin Hayden's hurt. He's their best running back. Yeah. Charlie Offerdahl's been, like, exclusively a pass, like a protection guy. They only give him the ball, like, 2 or 3 times a game just to keep the other team honest, and even that doesn't really work. So we'll see what they do. Maybe they try out one of the other running backs. We'll see. But, yeah, I would expect a very similar CU game plan offensively. And just Pat Shermer, after all. We shouldn't be expecting some creativity because rewatching the tape from CU Nebraska, it was pretty ugly.
It was bad. It was really bad. Before we do predictions, what was this silly fight song story?
Oh, I mean, someone in the Denver media claimed that Dion told the band not to play the fight song after Shedeur's touchdowns because they wanted to play Shedeur's rap song, which they did play a small clip of against North Dakota State after Shedeur's passing touchdowns, but then they went right into the fight song. It wasn't like they didn't play it at all kind of thing. And they do the same thing for Alejandro Mata, the kicker. Whenever he makes extra point or a field goal, they play a snippet of his whatever song it is. I don't remember, and then they go into the other fight CU or whatever. So a non-story, but apparently every non-story is an actual story in Boulder. So,
well, that's what I was going to say. Like, it's the silly stuff like that makes people think, what the hell's going on up there?
Yeah. And like, it wasn't like wholly untrue because like they are playing Shedeur's song first, but like, it's not like, I mean, it does feel weird that like Shedeur's rap song plays after his touchdown. Like it just felt really weird the first time I noticed it against North Dakota State, but I still don't think it's that big of a deal. Like we know what this is about. Like I said, the band is still playing the fight songs and whatever. So there was I don't think there was a message, but I think Shedeur's got a song on Spotify needs to get streams for. So got to get that in the game as well.
Well, I think Dion Jr. has songs too, right?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, they play them at practice, I've heard. So but not during the game. Well, sometimes during pregame. Sometimes during pregame, you'll hear some of Dion Jr. songs, but I haven't heard any during the game. So
I mean, I don't think it's not going to be as loud in Fort Collins as it was in Lincoln last week, but it's going to be pretty hostile up there. I take it.
Yeah, it's going to be sold out again. I mean, they had a sold out crowd at Canvas last weekend for the UNC game, which was pretty impressive. Like I think this is the first time they're ever using the full allotment of standing room only tickets. So that'll be
okay.
like over 40,000 people, which will be a record for Kansas Stadium. So that'll be, yeah, I think it's going to be a fired up crowd. Like everyone remembers what happened last year. There was no like public sale of tickets for this game aside from like the couple thousand standing room only tickets. Like it was all like season ticket plans or like mini plans and students. Like if you're a CU fan, you're gonna have to fork over a couple $100 on the secondary market to get into this game. So unless you were able to pose as a CSU fan and get a season ticket plan or of some kind, which I imagine some people probably did. It was probably financially worth it to just sell the rest of the games to go for the CU game. But yeah, I still think it'll be mostly CSU fans, and it'll be a wild crowd ready to have an impact because the CU. I felt like the Folsom Field crowd had an impact last year. At times during that game, that was a crazy atmosphere as well. It's not as late. It's not going to game. The game's not going to kick off after 8 p.m. like it did last year. It's thankfully going to be closer to 5:45, but yeah, it'll still be a long day of tailgating. Everybody's going to be fired up in that stadium by 5:30.
All right, so like we said, Buffs 7.5 point favorites. What do we got for predictions, Tyler? What do you think?
I think it's going to be a close game. I really do. But I think history says CU wins the game, and I think that's just what I'm going to go with. Like I think there's going to be points. I don't know what the over under is. Bet the over because I think both defenses are going to struggle in this game. And I think CSU is going to be ready. Yeah, I'd take the over. Like I think CSU is going to be ready to throw the ball around, even if Torrey Horton is not 100%. They've got plenty of speedy receivers that they have a ton of confidence in. So I will take CU in a close game, very similar to last year. I'll go 42-38 CU.
Yeah, I'm leaning kind of the same way. I've gone back and forth because CU has they just look so bad last week.
Yeah.
They didn't.
I just don't know if they're going to look. The one thing which we didn't really talk about, I just don't know. We talked about this a little earlier in the week. I mean, I just don't know if it's going to look that bad the rest of the year because I think that's far and away the best defense they played all maybe the best team they played all season, especially specifically the most physical team. So I think it'll look a lot different, and the rest of the teams on the schedule will be a lot more suited to their play style.
Yeah, I mean CSU doesn't have the monsters on the line like Nebraska does. Like that,
nobody in the Big 12 does.
No, nobody does. Nobody does.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Buffs 34-30. I think. Like you said, there's going to be points. CU's defense still doesn't really stop anybody. It seems like CSU gives up some points too. So I'll go 34-30. So that's probably not going to make Rams fans happy, but hey, you're moving to the Pac-12. So I mean, it's a good weekend no matter what, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So Tyler will have so we're going to have coverage a lot today online and then in tomorrow's Denver Gazette of all the conference realignment stuff. Tyler's going to have talking with officials at CSU. We're going to have a Q&A from that. Our colleagues in the Springs will have the Air Force side, and then we'll have all the preview stuff on for the Rocky Mountain Show, and then coverage of the game. So it's going to be a really busy weekend. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast on Apple or on Spotify. I'm also going to put this podcast up at denvergazette.com. You can click on it there to find it. So Tyler, thanks for coming on and taking some time out today. I know it's going to be busy, and we'll probably talk Sunday morning, recapping CU CSU.
Yeah, it should be a good one.
All right, thanks.